can try and win championships, and that's what it's all about. When you look from the outside and you watch this team, I know we're going to have a real good, solid hockey team this year.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Rangers. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Eric Wilson. And before we really dive into today's video, I want to give a quick shout-out to a couple of viewers. Shout-out to Appeal to Reason. Thank you for keeping me in notice and showing me that the Rangers actually used my voice from one of our episodes in an official New York Rangers YouTube video. That was really cool. Of course, we can't have that kind of recognition without the support of all of you viewers. So special shout out to Appeal to Reason and everybody else watching, including you, O3. You keep showing a mad love to Eric in the DMs on Instagram. We really appreciate you. Guys, stay tuned. We got a lot of great New York Rangers content coming your way right here on Fireside Rangers. And today, we're going to be talking about Brennan Othmann. Of course, as we all know, the New York Rangers recently sent Brennan Othmann down to the OHL again. He's going to be playing in the juniors. He didn't make the roster as many people predicted he would. He had a really great summer, but unfortunately, he's not going to be playing on the New York Rangers lines in the 2022 to 2023 season. So, Eric, I want to dive into Brennan Othmann, really get your take on this decision by the New York Rangers. But before we dive into all that good stuff, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Like you said, shout out my boy O3. Great guy. Yeah.
Shout out to 3. But yes, sir. Let's go ahead and talk about Brennan Othmann. Now, Brennan Othmann, as we mentioned, 2021 first-round pick who's been playing really well this summer. And a lot of people thought that he could be on the roster this season. We made a couple of videos about him talking about how well he's been playing, how we think that there's a good chance that he could end up making the team. But unfortunately, the Rangers did decide to send him down to the OHL, and he's already playing really well with the Firebirds. He had 1 game and 2 goals in 1 game, so he's already just lighting it up there. A lot of people are talking about his performance in the OHL this season, predicting his stats. There's a good chance he nets 60 points this year, and he's just a tremendous talent. He's very young, though. He's 19 years old. And he scored 50 goals and 97 points last season. People think he's getting 60 goals this season. So he's a really talented player, and he's absolutely dominating all the juniors. But he didn't make the New York Rangers roster. And Eric, initially, what do you think the reason is that the Rangers decided not to bring him in to the regular season roster?
I mean, the main thing is we just have too much talent. We were discussing if Vesey should make the team and Dryden Hunt. One player that we even completely forgot to mention in the last video was Sammy Blais. There's so much talent that's competing to get onto this roster right now that for a 19-year-old kid to just come in and as a rookie and just make the team, it was never very likely. Definitely within the next couple of years, we'll see him though. But as of right now, it's just the pipeline is full.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. Pipeline is full, and it seems like Brennan Othmann himself even knew that. Here's a quote from Brennan Othmann, quote, "I wanted to go in there and make the team, but I knew I wasn't going to because of their roster right now," end quote, which is pretty much exactly what you just said, Eric. There is a lot of talent on this team. We've failed to mention the other day Sammy Blais, of course, Dryden Hunt. There's a Jimmy Vesey. Of course, there's just so many players competing on the back end of these lines, and Brennan Othmann being 19 years old, it doesn't hurt to just give him another developmental year. Or maybe it could, though. Who knows? Maybe he could have stepped in and really made an impact. And I guess that's kind of what I want to get into here is, did the New York Rangers make a mistake sending Brennan Othmann back to the OHL? Now, he's going to play in the OHL. It's another year of developmental, growth for him, kind of just dominating all the juniors around him, basically. But is that exactly what Brennan Othmann needs? Now, there's some weird rule in the NHL's, relegation system, basically, or, their developmental leagues, where in order to send him to an actual NHL developmental league rather than the juniors, the OHL, he'd have to be at least 20 years old, and he's 19, so they had to send him to the OHL, which is a very strange rule, like I said. And so I'm wondering, should they have maybe held on to him till he came of age, till he turned 20 years old, and they could send him to one of those developmental leagues? I don't know. It's a very strange rule that complicates things for the Rangers, and it really takes away a lot of their flexibility, because I believe that this means that they can't bring him up anytime during the regular season. He has to play the year in the OHL. If he was in one of those developmental leagues, they could have brought him up at some point. But this means he's just going to be developing over there for a year. So, Eric, what are your thoughts on that? I know it's kind of like a very strange rule that the NHL has in place, but is it in the best interest of Brennan Othmann to spend an entire year, an entire season away from the New York Rangers? Or do you think that maybe they should have brought him onto the regular season roster to develop him through the NHL?
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never heard of that rule before. So it's a little weird. I don't think it might be the best option to let him stay over there for a whole nother season, but I also don't think it would hurt You've seen situations where we bring players over to the NHL too quickly and then they don't develop properly. Like a perfect example being Capo Caco. He just was instantly ripped into the NHL with different rink sizes and the different style of play. And it's like taken him a couple of years to really get used to NHL play. So, Othmann is only 19. We just drafted him last year. It's like, yeah, let him go develop over there one more year. And then when he does come over, he'll be bigger, stronger, better hands, a better shot. So I don't think it would hurt whatsoever. He's already met a bunch of players on the team who are going to still be here next year. So just let him develop, let him train, become a better player than he already is. And I don't think that could hurt at all.
Yeah, and just to provide a little bit more clarity on the rule, Will Kyle he's 20 years old. He was assigned to the Wolfpack a couple days ago, but Brennan Othmann had to be sent to the OHL rather than the AHL because he's 19 rather than 20. It's such a strange rule, but I want to hit on something else that you mentioned. There's still some guys on the New York Rangers that are going to be here next year that he knows, and one of those guys is actually Chris Kreider. Now, Molly Walker and a few other reporters have been discussing on Twitter that Brennan Othmann has been taken under the wing of Chris Kreider throughout the summer. He's been working very closely with him, and it's kind of one of those mentorship situations that gets you really excited. And there are a few quotes that I have about Brennan Othmann's time with the Rangers this summer. And here's a really good one. Quote, "It was great. I learned a lot of valuable pro tips that I can bring back here to junior hockey. I kept up with the speed. It's just the little details. I wanted to go in there and make the team, but I knew I wasn't going to because of the roster right now," end quote, which is, I gave you half of that quote earlier, but just kind of hitting on the point where he learned a lot of valuable pro tips from the professionals. And then also, here's another good quote. Quote, "I kept in contact all summer with the boys. Kudos to the leadership group here to get things in order," end quote. So that's him talking about the Firebirds that he kept in contact with over the summer. So not only is he getting that mentorship from Chris Kreider and kind of being taken under his wing, he's learning a lot of valuable tips from the pros. He also was keeping in contact with the Firebirds, knowing that he probably was going back there by the summer's end. But Eric, what are your thoughts on Brennan Othmann kind of just keeping in contact with the Firebirds players throughout the summer? And then also your thoughts on him being taken under Chris Kreider's wing and under that mentorship role and kind of just learning from all of the pros on the Rangers roster throughout the summer?
I mean, it's good to hear that he stayed in touch with the Firebirds team. He spent a lot of time over here with the Rangers, and he knew eventually he was gonna have to go back. And a big part of successful hockey is having good team chemistry. So, just to know that he stayed in touch and was like still friends with everyone despite spending time away, it's very good to hear. And it's also makes me happy to hear that he was kind of taken underneath Kreider's wing when he was with the Rangers. Because, Kreider is one of our best offensive forwards. He's more of a pure goal scorer, very quick, very big. And that's kind of what I see in Othmann a little bit. So if there was a player that he should look up to and try to base his game off of, I think Chris Kreider was the perfect choice. So that's very good to hear.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, there's so many great players on the New York Rangers. Anyone could have been that perfect mentor for him, but I do agree with you. Chris Kreider being that mentor for Brennan Othmann makes the most sense, and it's definitely something that's exciting to hear. I got a couple more Brennan Othmann quotes that I'll dive into. Quote, this was actually from before Thursday's exhibition game against the New Jersey Devils. He said, quote, "I'm here to make an impression and to make the team, but it's not the end of the world if I have to go back to the juniors," end quote. So again, he knew that it was coming. He knew he was probably going to be sent down. He gave it his best. He tried really hard to make the team, and he did put in some solid performances. In the second preseason game for Brennan Othmann, he did finish with 2 assists, and he got some first start honors. So I think, there were some solid performances from Brennan Othmann this summer that could tell you hey, maybe the Rangers should keep him around. But at the end of the day, I think that rule really got in the way. Having to send them to the OHL is pretty frustrating rather than sending them to the AHL with Will Kyle. Sending him all the way down to the juniors is definitely a frustrating rule that the Rangers were forced to comply with.
Yeah, and I just looked it up. His birthday is early January. So if we did want to hold on to him till his birthday, we would have had to have him for 3/4 of the season. So
yeah, which at that point you basically should just keep him for the entire season as it is. And then the Rangers would be sacrificing other talents like potentially Jimmy Vesey, who we've talked about. Jimmy Vesey, we talked about him in yesterday's episode as well. Go check that out if you haven't already. He's been playing really well. He's been scoring goals. He's been netting assists. He's been doing a whole lot for the Rangers on his PTO. And he's also been doing a lot in the penalty killing aspect of the game. So he's someone that we're pretty high on right now. We think probably is going to end up making the final lineup. But one more cool quote from Brennan Othmann here. Quote, I felt pretty good, but you still get nervous and a little starstruck. This is what he said after his preseason debut. I spoke to Schneider, and he told me you can't really think about it. You just have to play, and the older guys like Kreider helped me with that. So again, just bringing home the point that Chris Kreider had a lot to do with Brennan Othmann's development over the summer. Chris Kreider really is one of the true leaders of the team. I remember, Eric, way back when we were doing the video about who should be the Rangers captain in the 2022-23 season. If I remember correctly, we landed on Chris Kreider potentially as the number one guy that we thought.
Kreider is Zibanejad.
Yeah, we said Kreider is Zibanejad. Of course, shout out Jacob Trouba. He deserves it, but Kreider really is an excellent leader for this team, and I think that this is just another prime example of that. So this was supposed to be a video about did the Rangers make a mistake sending Brennan Othmann back to the OHL, but it's kind of become a video just hyping up the great leadership capabilities of Chris Kreider. But to really answer the question of the video, personally, one last time, I do not think they made a mistake sending him back to the OHL. I think their hands were tied. With that rule, like I mentioned, him being 19 years old, you can't hold on to him until January. That's just, taking up a roster spot that could be better served elsewhere, like with a guy like Jimmy Vesey. So I think that the Rangers made the right decision sending him back to the OHL. I wish they could have sent him to the AHL, keep him in a minor league affiliate. Minor league, there's a lot more flexibility to move players up and down rather than sending them all the way to the junior league. However, that just wasn't the way that the cookie crumbled. Next summer, I think we're going to see some more Brennan Othmann after another solid year with the Firebirds. And hopefully next summer he can compete really hard, earn that position on the Rangers lines, and hopefully start his New York Rangers career in the 2023 season. But Eric, what are your last thoughts? Answer the question of the video and your last thoughts on this Brennan Othmann topic.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they did the best they could with the hand that they were dealt, made the best out of a kind of bad situation, sent him down there, let him develop, and let these other great talents compete for the spot. I think they made the right choice.
Yep, we're in agreement on that. And at the end of the day, Brennan Othmann got a lot of great developmental time with the Rangers this summer. We can be thankful for that, right? He played in the preseason with the team. He got that mentorship from Chris Kreider and the rest of the guys. He got valuable experience. That's, first of all, going to make him a much better player in the OHL this year, playing with the Firebirds, but also it is stuff that's going to apply to his game in the future, including next summer, next year. Hopefully he's on the team. So a very valuable summer for Brennan Othmann. Of course, he didn't make the team with the New York Rangers, but let's give it a try again next year and see what goes on. I still think Brennan Othmann is probably our most promising prospect, so we'll be keeping a close eye on him. And throughout the season, of course, we're going to be covering the New York Rangers, but we'll probably give you updates periodically throughout the season on how Brennan Othmann is playing, just so you guys are all in the loop and know how well he's doing over with the Firebirds. But make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this episode of Fireside Rangers, and comment down below what are your thoughts on Brennan Othmann, the situation, having him sent back to the OHL. Let us know down below. Make sure to subscribe if you're new. Like I said, so much New York Rangers content coming out soon, especially since we're less than a week away from the season opener. We're thinking about going live on the night of the season opener to chat with you guys in the comment section on YouTube, so stay tuned to that. We'll post about it in the community page. Make sure to go interact with the community page. We're going to start posting on there a whole lot more. But of course, ring a bell so you don't miss an episode. We will catch you all on the next one. Have a good one. And Eric, let's go Rangers.
He shoots. He's